Like, did you try, or did you move the world to make it happen?
You got to get in the game. If you're going to play the game, let's play to win it. Let's play to max it out. Let's play to 10x it, right?
The people I see winning in life don't have a perfect plan. They just take the first step and then the next, and then they keep going. They stay obsessed and they stay consistent.
You negotiate the costs with yourself.
Backwards from the assumed success, which is why do so much volume, it would be unreasonable that you were successful.
Every single day has to be a pursuit to get better, to improve, to grow, to stretch, because you are ultimately chasing the destiny version of you.
The bigger the goal is, the fewer the people who are pursuing it, just because they think it is a big goal and therefore it must be harder to achieve.
That's the Ferris thing about most people try to achieve mediocre goals, which makes them the most competed for.
Life is straight and narrow because few there be that are willing to discipline themselves. Here's something else that most people won't do. Make it okay to fail.
So don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big.
You can recreate and you can figure out ways to find success again and again. But the one thing that you are winning in, you're not going to win in it forever.
And I think one of the greatest lessons of that, there's a quote that the world is overly cruel to shy men and it rewards the courageous. Confidence and belief in oneself is one of the biggest things people that struggle with, and it's what prevents them from finding success.
Are you that kind of person? Magnet to whatever is out there, not standing for anything. Because if you don't stand for anything, my friend, you fall for everything then.
But the fact of the matter is that the reason discipline is hard to maintain is because it is hard to maintain. That's what makes discipline hard. It's hard.
Number one, make discipline a major force in your life. How many of you know if you'd have been more disciplined, you'd be further along to reach your goals right now? Socrates said the undisciplined life is an insane life.
The more radical and improbable and incomprehensible dreams shift the elements of your framework of perception so dramatically that you can't necessarily explicitly understand the transformation.
There's always been this little voice in your head since you were a little boy or a little girl. You've always known there was something special about you. Those of us that have faith in the room, we know we were made as a masterpiece. We know the Lord looks at us like we can do anything with our lives.
While it may be frightening, it will also be rewarding. Because the chances you take, the people you meet, the people you love, the faith that you have, that's what's going to define you.
The bar for excellence has never been so low. Most of your competition quits after the first sign of difficulty because they've never known what hard feels like. If it's hard for you, it's hard for everyone. And most people avoid hard things, which is why you can beat most people by just trying.
The difference between have to, duty, and get to, that's the difference between rich and poor. And rich and poor is not money, right? Rich and poor is feeling fully alive. That's rich, right? Poor is you work your ass off and you have plenty of money and you help all kinds of people, but you don't connect it.
So he ain't gonna put no more on you than you can bear. So why are you tripping about all you got to do? He said, well, let me quit giving him stuff to do because he already can't handle this here. You kill more blessings by not being grateful. That's the number one blessing blocker, lack of gratitude.
Listen to me. A race began. And it's a race that started that first day when you were born to the last day of your life. And that race is to finally reach the ultimate version of you. You're chasing down the person you were born to be, that you were destined to be.
Indecision isn't always a fear of failure, it's unknown values. And by that, I mean, you may think that you're afraid of failure, but really you just don't know what's most important to you, because if you know what's most important to you and the decision that you're trying to make is unrelated to that, then who cares if you fail, because the thing that's most important to you is unaffected by that.
Because it's decisions we make to chase that best version of us every second, every day, that every day alters the direction of the course of our lives. We've all made decisions that we regret. That decision took me off course. That decision put me further away of being the best life I could have.
I would just start having myself accountable. How did I attack today?
how did I attack yesterday? And if I didn't do something I was proud of, I'd write down a sticky note and I would fix it. So then my senior year in high school, it was a totally different David Goggins.
The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams, that want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.
You weren't born to be average. You weren't born to have a mediocre existence on this earth. You were born to do something great, and that's why you're in this room. It's by no mistake that you've always had those thoughts, that intuition, that aspiration, and you find yourself in this room at this time today.
But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. So have dreams, but have goals.
So I realized that when I'm at my best, I'm creative. The kind of correlation causation, I'm not really sure, but if I can live myself in alignment where I'm not overextending myself and I feel good and I'm at peace and I'm doing things that I'm aligned with, my brain is usually spinning an idea and thoughts, trying to go deeper on things and wanting to create something of it, even if it's just new thoughts.
If you're choosing to do something, attack it. Because they're gonna remember you as not attacking it. So I want to be remembered. You can hate me, but one thing you can't say about me, I didn't attack it. So that's the mentality you have. If you're gonna do something, you might as well attack it, because you can do it anyway.
There's sort of two things happening at once here. One is you can work way harder than you think you can.
Yes.
And another one is most people work so not hard that even a small amount of working hard puts you into a rarefied strata of people. And both of those things are true at the same time.
You've been willing to be the person, the outsider in lots of rooms. Mm-hmm. That seems to be really central to your success. And what Chris Rock said to you there was, get out into the unfamiliar. Go put yourself in an unfamiliar place. And when I look at your career and the empire that you've been able to build across business and investing, it's exactly that. It's you were willing to be in unfamiliar territories for some reason.
You start at what is, with its insufficiency. You move towards what should be. That's the value proposition. Why expend energy if the goal doesn't have value? If you expend energy towards goals that have no value, you die, right?
You need, like, your energy has got to be shifted. You need a kick in the ass. You need to get an environment where you're on fire. Yeah. And then at that state, you've had that state before, I guarantee you, when you got here. But then you got so caught up in the push, I think you've missed some of the pull for your life. And I think this is not just true of you, it's true of most of us.
You start to make headway. You start to improve your body, your mind-body connection, you're confident, you're uplifting, your shoulders roll back, walking with a purpose. People see that positive energy, like, wow, I want to be a part of it. And in society, there's sharks swimming everywhere that feed off of that, because it's very few and far between that's ever seen it.
And share with you how to break out of that.
And it is work to maintain the discipline. That's what it is, work. Holding the line. Maintaining the standard. Giving no slack, none. That's the discipline. That's the discipline, and it is hard.
What I'm not okay with is while I have the bandwidth of good health, great mind, strong mind concept, and I can go, I can do it, I can get there. I'm not okay with wasting that time.
I don't have goals that I'm worth suffering for. No, don't get me wrong. Every day is not like pure bliss. Yeah. And there's lots of things that I don't love to do that I need to do to succeed or I got to deal with. That's part of life. But pain is part of life. Suffering's an option. You've heard that phrase, but it's a fact. Yeah. It's not just a phrase. That's why you've heard that before. But when you make it your goal to find a goal worth suffering for, you're going to suffer.
Change the way you think. Y'all quiet, but I'm telling you, this is really the science of becoming successful. It's not what you do for a living. It ain't how much you make. It ain't none of that. It's simply how you think. If you change your thought, You change everything. You change your attitude, you change your altitude. It's all that. You should dream outlandish dreams. If it's in your imagination, it's possible. Do you know that you can't think of something that can't happen? You know it's impossible to think of the impossible. It's not possible. So if you think it, it's possible. And if you live your life in possibilities instead of probabilities, you have a greater chance of finding happiness.
Envision what it feels like when you're done. What it feels like after you've worked out, or you've held the line on your food intake, or you've pushed through some monotonous project that you have to do, and all those things. When they're done, they feel good.
The best piece of advice came from Chris Rock, where Chris Rock told me early in my comedy career, he says, his exact word is, you don't just want to make niggas laugh. The world is so much bigger than your block or your neighborhood. He said, get out the country. Get out the country and figure out a way to make the world laugh. And comedy will be so much better.
Like everything in my life, volume negates luck. Violence is the answer. Like these are sayings that are plastered around the wall of this office because they've been so true for me that you can brute force what you want into reality. And yes, today, we talked about trades that we're not willing to make. But if you want something, like, did you move mountains?
Decisiveness is a muscle and it needs to be worked. What I realized being involved in a lot more business stuff now is the best CEOs and entrepreneurs I know just make decisions like nothing, and they make them so fast and so decisive, and if they're wrong, they just adapt and overcome them, and they've worked that muscle. They're like the Ronnie Coleman of making decisions. Just strong, forms out the door, just make it, get the job done, and you'll build muscle.
And I can't think of a better message as we send you off today. To not only take risks, but to be open to life, to accept new views, and to be open to new opinions, to be willing to speak at a commencement at one of the best universities in the country, even though you're scared stiff. While it may be frightening, it will also be rewarding.
And I guess the thing I've learned is that we're way bigger than we think we are. We're way bigger than we allow ourselves to be. We are way more than the little sliver of race, creed, color, city, country, that we confine ourselves to. And that idea of a person can even become the prison that keeps us from excelling.
This is your mission. When you leave the friendly confines of Philly, never be discouraged, never hold back, give everything you got. And when you fall throughout life, and maybe even tonight after a few many glasses of champagne, remember this: fall forward.
You must be willing to do the things today others won't do, in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. That's why the book of life said the road to life is straight and narrow, and few there be that find it, because few there be that are willing to do the things today others won't do, in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have.
You guys gotta risk it, man. Don't let anyone say you can't do something. Don't let your mind say, oh, I can't do it anymore, to your body. You can, you just gotta push past it. You guys heard the second wind, I got my second wind, my third wind. That's in us. We stop ourselves before we really need to be stopped. We listen to society and what the normality, the average people are saying, oh, that's too much, too much for them, man, not too much for you.
The wilderness, where there's bumps and pit holes along the way, do you rattle at every single one, or do you say solid to it because you have weight within yourself? What you speak, you walk. You don't speak words hollowly, you back them up with action. You believe in what you're doing. You have confidence, you have character. Or are you somebody that stands for nothing?
Wake up early, I say that, and write things down, and take cold showers, and tell everyone what you're going to do. So broadcast it, and make promises, or make bets with your friends of something that you don't want to lose. And those things, those ideas, they're cool. I'm sure they're going to have some impact, and if they work for you, that's awesome.
I wake up every morning with nothing but gratitude, and I became more efficient. And I'm telling you right now, 2 of them deals, I signed 1 yesterday because I figured it out. The cool thing about it is, it don't take God a long time to bless you. He starts immediately, man. Listen to me, y'all. Wake up every day and start being grateful. Man, I got to go to work today. Man, I got these kids. See, you asked for all this shit, though. Remember when you wanted a job? Remember when you wanted a baby? Remember when you wanted to get the new car? Well, the new car come with some bills. Well, remember when you wanted to get you a bigger place? You got the bigger place. It costs more money. You know what I learned? You can't cry about what's on your plate when your whole goal was to eat.
A lot of you guys and girls are hard chargers, you know. You guys are giving a real valiant effort, really putting out hard work, bearing those seeds of today that will bear the fruits of your labor tomorrow. And when that happens, great things happen. You go, wow, hard work pays the off. It's possible. There's no longer problems. They're just situations that if I work hard, I can manipulate to my advantage.
Vast majority of successful people have one thing in common, which is they're consistent. And consistency, you cannot see in a snapshot. You can't see consistency in a soundbite. You can't see consistency in a reel. And so consistency is one of those things. I think you talked about unlearnable lessons. I think they are difficult to learn without large amounts of exposure. And so I think those are the types of lessons that become unlearnables, that you need large amounts of exposure in order to encapsulate the lesson.
What you will feel like later when you let the discipline slack. You know the feeling. Feeling weak and defeated, and you know that you're falling behind. So get to know those 2 different types of feelings and ask yourself which one you want to feel in 10 minutes.
One of the number one things I wish I'd done in the beginning of my career was after every show I'd done or every Olympia, I'd taken 3 months, 4 months, and I often took time off, but I wish I had taken 3 to 4 months of doing a structural balance phase like I do now with Justin, where I'm like, okay, what's uneven? My left hip's kind of my right shoulder, this, that, okay, I need to open this up, strengthen that, and rebuild everything. So I didn't continuously get injured like I did literally every year of the Olympia. I tore something that I had to overcome because I wasn't properly building at the beginning of the year, which ended up making a bigger setback.
Because taking risk is not just about going for a job. It's also about knowing what you know and what you don't know. It's about being open to people and to ideas. In the course of the film, the character I play begins to take small steps, small risks. He very, very, very slowly begins to overcome his fears.
We're like, we don't have the time not to do this. So when you come up with something like range of motion, tendon strength, mobility, all that kind of work, we're like, oh, I don't have time. Or getting your books in business and getting your books in order in a business. If you say you don't have time, the reality is you don't have time not to, because yes, it might work for a year, but when everything hits the fan, when you tear your pec, when you are selling $1 million but losing 1.1 million because you don't know what your margins are, then you realize you're and then you have to redo everything, and it takes even more time than if you just done it right from the beginning.
No matter what avenue I choose, I want to be the very best. And the very best may not be I'm number one. The very best is, did I leave everything inside of me out there? So attacking is not like, oh, I want to win this or win that or be the best. The best is I'm running against myself in everything I do. And that's what I attack. I attack myself. I'm always questioning myself. I'm always holding myself accountable.
When the thing is done, when the discipline has been implemented, remember what that feels like, and then remember that those minutes and those hours, they turn into weeks and months and years, and holding the line in those critical minutes will put you in an infinitely better place, physically and mentally, if you maintain the discipline.
The universe teaches through difficulty. God teaches through suffering and hard times. And the shaping of a person, the shaping of a willpower, the shaping of your energy is almost always exclusively in adversity. And with Chris Gardner, how he talked about the education of his suffering was one of the major lessons that I took away from that movie, like to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you want to achieve.
That to achieve these goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. In order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, which you have already done, and consistency every day, not just on Tuesday and miss a few days. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You've heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works.
People are so constrained in their thinking of what level of effort is because they haven't considered what trading way more for that thing is. But they would be willing to trade far more for that thing if the trade were clear. But because they've never tried hard at anything, they just think, oh, this is what trying looks like, which might be like the occasional Google search and a couple hours a week of like watching some videos on YouTube on something. It's like, that is not trying. Like, that is not trying. Like, if you cannot count the amount of repetitions that you're having in the hundreds, that is not trying.
One of the things I discovered really early is that the win goes to the most hours committed. When I realized that how I spent my time and attention on a daily basis, if I do something for 10 hours a day and you only do it for 9 hours a day, in a year it's going to be really hard for you to beat me. So I realized very, very early, I was probably 18 by the time I knew that the time applied was cumulative, and even if you were more talented than me, if I put in more hours than you, it would be really hard for you to beat me.
You can imagine sitting, not doing anything, imagining, which is a form of action, running variant possibilities through your mind, experimenting with a sequence of different aims, evaluating the manner in which the emotional landscape shifts as you portray different fictional outcomes in an attempt to experiment with determining what course you should chart before you implement it in the real world.
The paradox of decisiveness. Decisive people are often wrong, but always moving forward. Indecisive people are often right, but take forever to move. You look at someone who's really indecisive, they might wait forever to make the right decision, but by then, the person who is decisive has already made 10 decisions, figured out what the good one was, and then moved on to the next one and figured that one out too. So sometimes speed is the answer, just to go and to learn. And again, there's nothing more that you can learn from life than up sometimes. There's so much to learn with that because you know if something didn't work and you need to adapt and change and think deeper on it, and it's a huge lesson. So sometimes you just gotta throw it in there and get after it.
Enter something that you've been scared to do. Just entering it, you feel a sense of pride. And I guarantee you what that was you're so freaked out about, you're gonna find out it's not that big of a deal. And then you're gonna come back and say, you know what? That fear I had for so long that was lurking over me and making me, skeptical and scared and less confident, I just faced it in the eyes. And you know what? I beat it down. So how many other fears do I have right now? What else am I hiding behind? Let me get rid of all these excuses and find out who the f I am. That's what you guys need to do, man.
One of the biggest things I learned about confidence was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The confidence is one side of it, but it's built on not being scared to look stupid. So it looks like confidence when you're not scared to fail, right? It's not actually confidence in its seeds. It becomes confidence after you get used to rejection, you get used to doing it wrong, you get used to being okay when you tell a joke and that one's not funny, and you get comfortable if you hit 3 out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. The comfort to fail in front of people is what is perceived as confidence.
See, we live in a world where we believe that bad things are supposed to happen to us. I remember at a point in my life, Bishop, when things are going good for me, and I said, this is too good to be true. Something is bound to happen. Guess what? It did. Thou shalt decree a thing that shall be established unto you and shall accomplish that whereunto it has been sent. Watch your words. Watch what you say about yourself, about your affairs. Be conscious of that on a daily basis. Why? Because your words are powerful. In the beginning was the Word. Life and death is in the tongue. Watch what you say. Never say I'm broke. Say I'm overcoming a cash flow problem.
If you choose to go that route, to go be a Navy SEAL, you might as well go be the hardest man in the world. Because if you're choosing to do something, you have two routes. You can go there and be a little weak person and get through barely, and that's your reputation. Or you can go through the hardest guy you can possibly be, and that's your reputation. So my whole thing is, if you're gonna choose to open that door in Iraq or Afghanistan, open them and go in hard. Because they're gonna remember you by slowly opening it and peeking in. So if you're gonna open it, and you made the mind to open it, don't crack it open. Open the door, go in. That's with life.
Why are most people stressed? Like, if you talk to people, like successful people, they're always talking, I'm so stressed, I'm stressed. I'll tell you why you're stressed, because you're managing shit. You know, like, you're managing all these great businesses, you're managing all this great money, but you know what, when you manage it, it puts you back in survival. Are you gonna tell me it's more stressful today than the dark ages? I mean, come on. But what's happened is, we have all this we're trying to manage, and we're not made to manage. You've been so successful that now you've hit a set point. And now the only way that set point is, people get to a point where they question and they start going, is it worth it or not? But I have to keep doing it. No, sometimes you make a point, you say, no, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, but I'm gonna be connected to it at a different level, or I'm gonna change paths altogether, or I'm gonna add a path that brings another dimension to me. Those are the places that go.
And the one scene that I related a lot of my life to, still to this day, was Rocky 1, round 14. And this is where I got taken souls from. If you look at round 14 of Rocky 1, Apollo is beating the shit out of Rocky. Rocky falls down in this corner. Mickey's saying, stay down, stay down. Rocky didn't hear a soul. Apollo, after he knocked him down, turns around, hands in the air, like, I finally knocked down this animal. Apollo doesn't know it, but Rocky's getting up. Apollo turns around the second Rocky gets up. And Apollo looks at Rocky, and Apollo looks at him with a look of like Rocky just took his soul. Apollo shakes his head, and Rocky has his gloves and emotions towards Apollo. Come on, I'm still here.
The ultimate goal is the goal that fills you with enthusiasm, right? Which is a way actually of determining within the confines of your own framework of experience what it is that has intrinsic meaning to you. Because if you posit a goal, you see a goal, a possible future, and you frame your perception in a manner that produces no forward moving impulse, which is positive emotion, then you have no heart for the adventure. And so one of the ways that you investigate the structure of your own psyche, or your own unconscious, or your own being, or being itself, is by evaluating frames that switch goals until your emotions signify to you that the pathway is worth walking down.
I did it correctly. I made sure that I applied myself to the best of my ability. I tried my best to put those that I loved in a better position so that they could see more and do more. My last name and my family name is much stronger today than it was yesterday. The idea of the world is something that I was able to see and understand better because I was blessed and fortunate enough to travel and meet so many. People are made to we're here to embrace, we're here to love, we're here to share. I was an energy source of good to bring people closer together through all things that I've done. So it all connects, and I'm okay. I'm okay with, if it stopped, it stopped.